Coin traders, how we doing? Thanks for joining me for the show. Looking at Injective INJ on that ticker. Big pullback right now with the rest of the crypto, looking for a little bounce, but right now getting stuck up on these EMAs. So still a lot more downside, especially after breaking the daily structure here. So we did have a very nice breakout and nice candles currently to set the all-time high, which does come in just shy of the $53 mark. So we're looking at 52.97. Then after that, huge pullbacks, retracements, set our low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So very steady and constant downtrend, but we know that the magnitude of this sell-off is definitely huge. So we are going to be expecting a bottom end retracement to come in, and that's why we are going to be zooming out here and looking at some of the longer term charts. So with that, flipping over into the weekly, and right now, one of the things about this, like we talked about, is just the magnitude of retracement, especially after hitting the all-time high. So after hitting just shy of 53 overall, we're looking at a pretty significant retracement, and for this, we're actually looking at, come on down to about a 64, almost 65% retracement down to the low right now, and for the low, we're looking at 1875. So huge pullback, especially over the course of about a month or so. But the good news is that we're still maintaining a very nice structure on this weekly chart. So despite losing the 12 period EMA for the nice support to the upside, actually being able to hold a very nice close, and even with this long lower shadow on the previous weekly candle that just closed a few days ago, very nice, especially seeing this kind of upside and a little bit more of that bounce, just showing how we are defending a lot of these lower side supports on this exponential moving average. So still maintaining a very nice uptrend, and despite the fact that we lost even the weekly structure, still looking pretty good because we know that a lot of the rest of the crypto space is bottoming, and overall we do need to see these kind of retracements in longer healthy markets in order to see further correctional upside. But with that said, that also means that it is going to take a lot longer now to actually normalize this chart and see a return to all-time highs. So for example, from current price at 28.29, almost 28.30, to the current all-time high right now, looking at about an almost 88% gain to the upside. So still pretty good. Obviously from the bottom, if you did enter, then you would have been looking at almost a 200 at 180% gain, just because of such a huge, significant retracement and pullback. Now, what's interesting about this weekly chart, though, is that if we actually look at the pullback, not necessarily that much bearish volume coming in compared to what we saw coming off of the fall into this initial rally where we saw just huge, massive gains. Very nice increasing bullish volume in that instance. So a lot of strength, a lot of chop sideways before we did see this huge retracement. But like we said, not that much volume. So it doesn't actually show a lot of strength, kind of more just regular market manipulation. So that's why we're not necessarily worried about it too much, and why we do look for entries like this being great opportunities to see upside potential. So do want to pull up the stochastic and RSI while we are talking about this weekly chart. Obviously, huge level of overbought on the weekly. So even despite it wasn't the all-time high, we're still looking at 94.1. So we knew at that point that we were going to need to see a retracement come in. It just so happened that we did pull back, kick off this 12-period EMA, and then run up to set our current all-time high right now. So when we actually saw that, we can actually see minimal bullish volume as well on this all-time high, and that's kind of why we got this lower high on this chart. So bearish divergence here in that instance, higher highs in price, lower highs in RSI. Now looking down at stochastic RSI all the way at the bottom, we are pretty much smashed up about as far as we are going to be able to go to the downside. Still looking at more or less about, 0.58 and 2.89. So could still get down to the zero. But typically when we have seen the stochastic RSI be this low, we do know that we're likely to get a bullish cross and then some more upside on that instance. So every time we have had the oscillators at these levels, had a very nice bullish cross, oscillators have returned back to the upside, and we do get a lot of price action to the upside with that. So especially because the weekly RSI did close so low, 45.45, are starting to see a return now. So even lower than where we got before back in the fall, before we had our very nice run up. So a lot of potential to actually see some more upside gains just based on the level of RSI. Now, sure, like we said, some of the daily and shorter time frame charts are starting to look a little rough. So we could see an upside and a return to some downside action on this RSI. Definitely not impossible. And right now we are going to be talking about some more of those resistances up overhead, because especially in a daily downtrend, we know that we are going to be targeting some of those and not necessarily an immediate return to some all-time highs. So back into the daily right now, do want to talk about a huge level of previous support now coming in at likely resistance, coming in at 31.09, so effectively 31.1. And so if we do look left, huge period of resistance, support, 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 and then even recently support before finally having this bearish candle to flush below. So we know that this is going to be a huge level for the bulls to actually overcome. Now, in addition to that, you can see that we are starting to get the daily candle stuck up on this 12-period EMA. So that's going to be the first point of resistance, whether or not we can actually get over that hump. Looking left too, you can see how this price actually intersects with this level of support after rejecting from the 31.1 before running up to the previous trend high that was coming in at 44.89. So this level is also going to be resistance and create a little bit of a zone, but it's not necessarily going to be as strong of a resistance point as what we're going to be experiencing out of the 31.1. Just because it has been tested so much as support, as resistance, as support again. So big level, as well as these exponential moving averages coming down. So a lot of resistive reasons why we're thinking that this is going to be a little bit more of that possible level to actually see prices get stuck up. So we could actually see a little bit of upside. But the caveat to that is that if and when we actually do see bulls break and hold a close on top of this level, hopefully back test it as support, this would be one of the extremely good signs that we would look for to think that we are going to be underway, continuing to see prices push upside towards that current all-time high. So this is going to be a very critical and key level because of that fact. Now, with that said, there's also going to be a lot of struggle up overhead on top of that just because of a lot of this previous price trading, and it did create just an overall huge level and zone of an opportunity for just sideways price trading that is going to create a lot of resistance going back. But when we talk about prices like this, once we actually do break above this zone, that's going to be a huge level and opportunity of support. So to kind of show this right now, I do want to turn on the VPVR, volume profile visible range, which is just the volume over here on the side based on each price level on this y-axis instead of the volume based on time like we do have down here on the x-axis. So as you can see, the big point of center mass up overhead coming in right around 38.8. So right around the $40 level is going to be an extremely big resistive zone as well. But because we have so much mass just kind of tapering up, it is going to be stronger and stronger and stronger resistance as we do approach that level, meaning that the higher and higher we do get, even if we do break this 31.1 resistance, is still going to be a challenge. So likely if we do break it, I would expect to spend a little bit more time here in this zone between 30 and 40 before seeing the next leg of upside to test the current all-time high. So we are going to need to see a lot of bullish volume come in order to actually break through this overall level and push forward to see new highs. And the thing that's going to create that is just a lot of new bullish sentiment coming into the market. So just because we do have an oversold bounce right now, I wouldn't likely expect that to be a return to all-time highs. So this does mean that we're probably going to have to spend some time more or less sitting sideways, hopefully trending upside a little bit more, but ultimately we do need to spend a little bit of time hoping to confirm a shift in sentiment now, because that is really what is going to start driving in a lot more of that bullish buying for Injective. Now, since we're on the daily chart, I also want to look at technical indicators as well. So pulling up the RSI once again, and do specifically want to focus on just where the daily closed for RSI being oversold to 25.96. If we zoom out, you can see that we didn't close at that RSI level since back in June of 2022. So almost 2 years ago since we have seen this level of oversold RSI. So this is a pretty good indication, especially in an otherwise bullish uptrend setting, that we are going to see a lot more upside pressure, and this is going to be a little bit more impactful and a little bit more reliable of a signal and indicator, just because not only is it that the first time we've seen this in about 2 years, but also just because we have otherwise been in an overall longer uptrend that has still been maintaining EMA support. Now on this daily too, you can even see how the amount of selling pressure has just been decreasing on all of these pullbacks. And despite still having a pretty strong bar or two on the big flush, like we said, we know that that was just manipulation and not a lot of follow through in that instance. So you can see that we only really had a couple of days of actual sell-off, and they were starting to taper off to less and less bearish volume. So we know that a lot of the selling pressure has actually subsided, and that's another reason why we're actually going to start hopefully looking for a little bit more bullish sentiment and bullish volume coming in here to hopefully reclaim once again this 31.1 level. Flipping over to the 2-day chart now because we do like the 2-day chart here, and about to get a full bearish cross here on this candle. So once the 26 actually fully rolls over, we will be in a complete EMA bearish formation, especially since flipping bearish between the 26 and 12 back here on the end of March. And so for the price level resistance, we're actually looking at slightly more, which is okay since it was a higher close. So 31.94. So overall, the $31 level as a whole is going to be pretty extremely resistive, especially if we do want to look at a lot of where the price bottoms are. It's going to be a very strong resistive zone in that dollar level between 31 and 32. So especially with these EMAs coming down and this price zone, we are going to have an extremely tough target on our hands to break. So it is going to take a lot of that sentiment and volume in order to change this. So otherwise, we are still going to know that we are in an otherwise downtrend scenario. But these are the times that we always do look to and actually see, okay, because we have actually been in a little bit of longer downtrend scenario, this is what we actually look for to pull back, set a higher low, and then a new higher high, and then hopefully change this daily trend and test some of these upper strong resistance levels. Because eventually the trend does have to change, so what ultimately is going to create that catalyst? Well, we do see a lot of things so far, and we've just talked about them. And so one thing that I do want to look at too is actually a Fibonacci retracement. So from the fall lows up to the current all-time high right now, we're actually pulling back in between this strong supportive zone we typically look for pullbacks like this in strong pullback scenarios, between the 61.8%, which is coming in at 24.23, and the 78.6, which is all the way down to 16.39. So being that from the bounce, we're actually looking at percentage gains all the way up to about a 50% rally so far. This is a pretty strong move. Now, obviously, we'd love to see a little bit more bullish volume coming in. So that's kind of why we think that we are going to experience a little bit of resistance and rejection overhead. But because we actually have rallied so much to this resistant point, it's likely that in that instance, we are going to pull back and set that higher low before rallying up and getting another test at resistance and possibly setting a new higher high. Switching over in the shorter term 4-hour charts really quick before we do wrap up. So we want to talk about the up overhead, almost $31 resistance point that we were looking at as support before the big flush. So now actually seeing prices break a lot of these trend highs right now. And actually we can draw a little bit more of a trend line so you can see how we are breaking through resistance and now back testing it and confirming as support. So on this move, resistance, 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 and now finally broke nice bullish candle on top of the exponential moving averages, as well as this rising trend line here on this move to back test it. And hopefully we can see follow through now all the way up to this $31 resistance level. So from current prices at 28.33 to that, we would be experiencing a little bit of a gain up about less than 10%, about 9.27. So for crypto, that seems like nothing, but overall, we do know that we're still not necessarily in a full bullish formation and setup just yet. We also do have a little bit of a rising trend line here for support. So especially with that coming in for resistance, we could see the case of a longer term bullish, a bearish flag type pattern and a rising wedge. But because we actually broke through this trend line, if we can still maintain it as support and see follow through, then that's pretty much going to invalidate this type of rising wedge as a bearish signal indicator. Now, turning on the RSI for this 4-hour chart, looking at the move, and we actually saw the low of RSI come in, not at the low of price. So at the low of price, 22.21, looking at RSI of 12.85. Next leg to the downside was actually looking at RSI at 20.96, where we were looking at a low of 18.75. So pretty good bullish divergence there in that instance, and now obviously trending to the upside. And if we zoom out, I can't even zoom out far enough for you to see when the last time we got a 4-hour RSI that sold. And the most recent we can go out, it's about 2 years here to October, so about a year and a half. So still a lot of upside potential just based off how oversold we were, and yet still maintaining a lot of these longer term chart formations and setups. So we know that it could actually take a long time, especially since the longer term charts are still in formation. So we would be looking at weeks and weeks of potential directions to still maintain that. So obviously nothing super exciting coming in here soon. But yeah, otherwise that is going to go ahead and wrap up the video on Injective INJ on that ticker. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Also, make sure to drop me a follow over on Twitter or X at coin_trades is the handle over there. Looking forward to chatting with everyone over there. Don't forget to drop me a note down in the comments sections below if you haven't done so just yet. Comments, questions, issues, predictions, all that stuff. Do love getting back to each and every one of you. That is it for now, though, so make sure you stay safe, take care. Thanks for all the love and support, and I'll catch you back in the next video.